How is everyone this morning? Awesome. So my name is Emily Cato. Hi, guys. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means to me is I haven't seen it necessary to use a drink or a drug since December 28th of 2013. I have announcements that I have to read, so we're going to get through those. Welcome to the 2022 Oxford House World Convention. Lanyards and name badges are required to enter all sessions. Yay, here we go. Please silence your cell phones during the breakout sessions. No side conversations during the panel. If you need to talk to someone, just step outside. This is the fun one that we all have to remember. Please don't smoke or vape near any entrances, okay? Because that little trip outside could happen again, and we don't want to do that, right? And then make sure that you are in the smoking area and that you're disposing of your cigarette butts properly and safely and no littering. Take notes and take them back to your chapter. And questions will only be addressed. They actually put only on here at the end of the session. So we have talked, and we're going to leave about 20 minutes at the end for you guys to ask some questions, okay? So my background really quickly is, I said I got into recovery in 2013, and I was incarcerated for a little while after that. And then I moved into an Oxford house in July of 2015. And then I moved up to Kentucky to start working for the organization in January of 2016. I had never finished my degree. Honestly, until I completed treatment while I was in prison, I hadn't finished really anything. I'd always get right to the end and not quite complete something. So, for example, I had 120 credit hours for a bachelor's degree, and none of them counted towards any bachelor's degree. I'd just been going to classes. And I knew I wanted to finish, right? Like, that was a really big deal for me. So in 2017, I applied to the University of Louisville, and they accepted me with my background, my felony. I was still a felon at the time, everything. And I was able to return to school. Now, I had 120 credit hours, but it took 3 more years to finish my bachelor's because I had to finally focus on something. I got a bachelor's degree in social work while I was working for Oxford House and as a person in recovery. And after finishing my bachelor's degree, I went straight into the advanced standing master's degree program for social work and finished that in a year, also in recovery, also working for Oxford House. And so today I'm up here to help moderate a panel with a bunch of other really amazing people who have done great things for collegiate recovery, returning to school, resiliency, who are going to share some of their experiences. And we're all going to help answer some questions about how you can go back to school and be successful and complete it if this is something that you really want to do. So first, we're going to start with Paula Harrington. Paula Harrington is a woman in long-term recovery since April 26, 1998. Woo! Paula is the Special Projects Coordinator in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. She moved into the First Women's House in Chapel Hill, North Carolina after completing treatment from the Freedom House Recovery Center in Chapel Hill. She started using at Howard University and also didn't have her children when she entered recovery. These were 2 important areas, so she opened the first women and children's home in North Carolina and the first collegiate Oxford house for males and then one for females in the country. Paula is a certified peer support specialist and trainer, a recovery coach and trainer, and serves on several boards representing Oxford House, giving a voice and hope to those seeking recovery. Please welcome Paula.
Good morning, everyone. And so I'm grateful to be here. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, though, is how important it is for us to continue on a path of learning. And so because I started using in college, I never got what I needed as far as learning how to be responsible. So And at that time, that's a long time ago. Y'all, I don't want to tell you how old I am or anything, but we didn't know anything really about recovery. So there was no information out there like it is today. So one of the things, though, that I really wanted to tap into was how do we go about helping people in school and college get their lives together, because a lot of times, like me, I started using and I didn't know anything else to do. So I had a lot of friends that were getting high, but they didn't have this disease. So when they graduated, they just said, okay, I'm done. But here I was, caught up, because I already had the disease. Anyway, so when I started talking about how I could go about it, I looked at the first steps. And the first steps for me is always identify what it is that you need. You need all the universities and all of the community colleges in the area. Most of them by now have recovery programs on campus. So you call them and contact them and go talk with their staff. And that's like what I have on there, set up a meeting with each department to do an Oxford House presentation for their staff. And if they are already an existing college recovery program, ask them if you can come and do a presentation. And so that's what I did. I did a presentation, and at that presentation, I got to ask, the students got to ask me questions. Also, I found out where they were going to meetings, and I started attending some of their meetings, just to have a voice. And so from these meetings, that I was able to determine if there was a need, in fact. And because in most of the recovery programs, they have students that once they get in trouble academically, they have to leave school, and then they usually follow them with some kind of treatment, and then help them find another place to come, because they know when they come back, if they come and around everyone else, it's not going to be a good look for them, okay? Then the next steps, here I go. The next steps, locate a potential house near campus, because you want it to be close to the students so that a lot of them don't have transportation. Now, luckily in Chapel Hill, buses are free, okay? So we had houses located near the potential campus. We contact the management companies about availability of a house. We walk through the house to determine the appropriateness, because you want to make sure everyone is comfortable, that they are used to certain amenities. Then we make sure the bus and meetings are close enough for the residents to be able to participate in building a foundation of recovery. And then once we find a house and we think that this is a good location, we contact the university, community partners to walk through the house with us so that they will get able to look and see where their students are going to be going. That has been very, very beneficial. Then what do we next? Moving forward, we're going to open the house. And when we open the house, don't be discouraged if it's not students in there at first. Because when I first opened the house, and guess what, that house is still going on. There were no students because a lot of them were in treatment. But the university knew that they were going to have a safe place. So what they did is so we opened the house and let the residents know eventually this is going to be a house for students. So as students start coming in, we started moving the other members into other houses. And they already knew that was going to happen. But it's hard for you to at first find a house that has all students, especially because with the model you still got to pay for it. You still got to pay the EES, still got to pay the rent. The landlord wants their money, okay? So we make sure our residents know that, and we set up the house with all of the essentials necessary as providing all houses. The chalkboard, the beds, all of that. And then you determine the resident EES, which is based on the viability calculator, based on the number of students that you want in your house. And then you contact treatment centers and facilities And then what you do is that you start posting on Facebook, and you start putting flyers out at the meetings that the students are. And it's really about you contacting and being visible through that process. And then after you open a house, then you should be able to have an open house in the community so that everyone will be able to see what an Oxford House for Students looks like. So then what's different in a Collegiate Oxford House? Nothing. It's just like everything else. The only thing that is a little caveat for us is that a lot of times we will have a relationship with the recovery program on campus. Sometimes they will participate in our meetings because what they want to do is make sure that the students are doing their academics, because that's why they are there. You know, so they still participate in the chapter, they do regular business meetings, they do chores. And the important thing about it is that they love the way that they are able to do what they need to do. And a lot of them are more conscientious than I was. Like if someone had to be on contract, some of the stuff they put them on contract, I was like, okay, really? But they really were very thoughtful. In the summertime, a lot of them have to go home. So usually they will pay their EES because they're coming back, a lot of them because their parents want them to come home. But then they attend weekly business meetings. Like back then they used to have Skype, now we got Zoom, but they participate weekly with their meetings for those of them that still have to go home. They are very in tune to their 12-step meetings. That process has been very important to the students. They are very focused on their recovery. They're very focused on what they need to do to finish school. We've had about 10 graduates that graduated from UNC. So the only thing I can tell you is that it's worth looking into, and if it doesn't happen right away, don't get discouraged. It's a labor of love. You know, it really is. But the key for me, and I was blessed in Chapel Hill. I retired from UNC in 2012 as an HR facilitator, and I knew a lot of people, but the guy that's at the Carolina Recovery Program head is in recovery. So that was really a plus because he understood what it takes. And so he helped the students when they had a return to use or whatever, they were able to stand by there and help us figure out what they needed to do. Okay? So my house is still going on. Yay! You know, even after the pandemic, you know, we struggled for a while. But you know, what they also then at that time, they started thinking to themselves, well, we might want someone 25 and under. Maybe they aren't in school yet, but at least they'll maybe wanting to go back. And that's where the recovery program at the universities will help them. So always remember that it's something that is really beneficial and a lot of students really need it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paula. You know, when I was in school, I was a part of one of those recovery campus programs, the Recovery Advocacy Program for college students. And, you know, we tried in Louisville to start a collegiate house. And it's a lot harder than she makes it sound. Because there is a huge stigma on campuses around alcohol use. And it is one of those things where if you're not involved in the on-site campus activities with the recovery community, it can be really, really hard to get that collegiate house going. Another really great thing is talk to the counselors at your local colleges that work to provide the consequences for students who have used, you know, whatever substance they've chosen. And that's a really great person to do a networking presentation to. Even if you can't do a collegiate recovery house, what we decided to do was to set up 3 or 4 houses in the vicinity of the university. And so the students would go into an Oxford house just like any other one, and they would be able to go to campus because it was within walking distance. And the biggest supporting group that we had on campus was the counselors that were helping to keep people in recovery and in school. So just to follow up on that, that's absolutely it. And you've done a great job, Paula.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Summer is a person in long-term recovery who has not used a mind-altering substance since September 4th of 2017. Her recovery journey started in 2015 when she moved into an Oxford house in Louisiana. During this time, she got involved with the local Oxford House chapter and state association. She engaged in service to the organization that helped save her life. She has also invested in her recovery by obtaining multiple certifications, including a Wellness Recovery Action Plan Facilitator, WRAP, and Certified Peer Support Specialist. In 2018, she acquired a position with Oxford House as an outreach worker in Montgomery, Alabama. Summer married her wife, Chandra, in 2020, right here. Yeah. And they moved to Florida, where she continued to open Oxford houses. After leaving the organization briefly, taking a sabbatical, that's what we like to call it, she returned to Oxford House, which will always be her home, and now is working in Maryland. Y'all welcome Summer Brown.
Good morning, y'all. Okay, so I have to breathe. All right, I'm gonna start with a quote that really, does that work? Okay. That really touched me. It's probably from multiple people throughout my life because I pull little jewels from everyone. Accomplishments all start with a decision and end with an action. So even though we want to do something, we have to put some action behind it, right? Whether it's recovery, school, life in general, building those relationships with families and friends, I've always had to put action behind it, and that was always the hard part. Is there a right time to go back to school? For me, I would have to say yes. I started to go back to school when I first got in recovery, and it was a lot for me. I also suffer with ADHD and some other mental health things. So I got sober and I was like, oh, I can take on the world, yay. And I did, I tried. So I had to take a step back and take some time off of school, and knowing when to do that so I didn't get so discouraged where I would never want to go back was the best thing I could ever do. I'm so grateful for those girls that were in that Oxford house with me and that was like, hey, look, you just got sober. Why don't you sit down for a minute? And I was like, what? I could do all of this. I couldn't though. Like for me, it was being able to look at that and see that it wasn't the best decision for me at that time. So I took a minute, I sat down and got grounded in my recovery, which took some time, because I like to always do a lot, right? I like to be seen and heard in early recovery, so I got in a lot of trouble. Finding what works, finding the right school that works for you. For me, I did not complete school. I started back in 2015 when I first got in Oxford House. I took a couple sabbaticals because I do that really well. I run. I'm a runner, y'all. I run. Even when things are doing really good, I still run. When I moved to Florida, I decided that I was not gonna not complete school. Like Emily, for me, school was something that always meant something, but I never felt like I could accomplish it. I had a lot of credits also for nothing. I have a lot of student loans today that I had to take out personal loans for because I had used up all my FAFSA and everything else on really no degree. So I just received my associates this year. Actually, the beginning of September was when I finished. And for me, that was the biggest thing that I've done outside of getting sober. Because it took so long, and it took a lot of hard work and a lot of looking at myself, a lot of self-care, and understanding who I am as a person and who I am in recovery, who I am in my learning styles is very different from a lot of people, but probably like a lot of people also. I'm not that person that can take on 5 different subjects at once. So I found a school that you do 1 subject per month, right? Best thing I could ever have done for my recovery, and also to empower me to understand how I learn, right? Because we all learn things differently. Some of us learn in big groups. Some of us need that one-on-one. I really needed this, and I've gotten, the whole time being back in school, I've gotten straight A's, 4.0. Something I never accomplished throughout high school or any other school. So it was very empowering for me. And understanding those routines and what works for me. With a 4-week class, my first week was straight panic. By the second week, I thought I had it. By the third week, it was over. And I was like, okay, we're done. And I'm in panic again because it's exams, right? So it was great. I'm sure my family and my wife really enjoyed me during that time. But so benefits, the benefits of going back to school, I was able to focus, which allowed me to build self-confidence, where I was able to achieve something outside of my recovery, but that also pushed me through in my recovery, right? Because I know for me, knowing that I have a degree today, I am able to work and hold a job, which I never did before, unless it was on somebody's corner selling drugs. So I'm able to market myself as a person that I'm proud of today. And stand up in front of y'all and do this, first time ever speaking on stage, just in case you don't know. So I've always had a fear of getting on stage and falling. I heard that happen yesterday for somebody. So I was really, really nervous of being up here. So I'm looking on the floors to make sure I'm not on the edge. School also gives you a sense of pride, right? For me, that pride came from being able to help myself, and also others helping me and pushing me through. I'm sure there were many a times I wanted to give up, and I've lived in Oxford House this whole time. So they've helped me and pushed me and supported me. I've had girls help me with papers, and because my spelling sucks. So I've had to download apps, and they're like, try this or do this. So just the support you can get from your people in your house and your friends in recovery to help push you and help you love yourself. For me, school has been that pillar to show me that I am worth it and I can do it, and so can you, if that's your journey.
for your first time speaking. You did great. Yeah, that was fantastic. Yes, give her a round of applause. I'm really glad that you started talking about some of the benefits. When I got into the rooms, I just identified myself as a junkie, right? For a long time, that's how I had seen myself. And then I went to prison and I was, just a formerly incarcerated person. And I was a person in recovery and I was just trying to make it through day by day. And I wasn't really sure who I was. And I didn't really know how to enjoy life or how to define different parts of who I was, if that makes sense. And so for the first couple of years of my recovery, all I knew to do was go to meetings, work some steps, and just get through day by day. And then I started to realize that I was building this life, which is what, the rooms, they give us, is an opportunity to build a life without the use of drugs and alcohol. And suddenly I was like, but what do I want to do with this? And so the biggest benefit of going back to school for me was it allowed me to identify myself in a whole nother way than I had before. Like, I'm not just a person in recovery. I'm a student, and I'm a mom, and I'm an adventurer, and those are all the different things I can describe myself today. And going back to school helped me see that. It helped me see that I don't just have to be solely an addict or an alcoholic, and that there's so many other words I can use to describe myself. And when that changed my perspective, it opened so many doors for me in the world. I am still a person in recovery, obviously. That is how I'm going to identify, but it's okay to identify in other ways too, and that was a really great thing. So I'm so glad you brought that up, very much so. So our next presenter is Mark Johnson. Mark, yes. Mark holds a bachelor's in science and communications from, I'm going to mess this up, Bowie State University. Bowie, okay. Can y'all tell that I'm not from that area? And his AA and addiction counseling from Anne Arundel Community College. He is a master's of science candidate in the mental health and rehabilitation counseling graduate program at the University of the District of Columbia. Mark is an Oxford House Inc. resource coordinator for the District of Columbia and an outreach coordinator for Prince George's County. Mark is a certified peer recovery specialist, a peer support supervisor, recovery coach, and a master Reiki teacher. Got it, right? Yes, here I am messing it all up. Mark's going to come talk to us about obtaining secondary degrees while in recovery. Thank you, Mark.
Good morning. My name is Mark. I'm a great recovering addict. I'm a man in long-term recovery, and what that means for me, I haven't found it necessary to use a drink or drug since December 6, 2017. So just so I can identify, I want you to know I am you. I'm an African-American man. I'm in recovery for a substance use disorder, and I'm a 3-time convicted felon. So that's to say that we're resilient and that we're only limited by our thinking. Your attitude will determine your altitude. I have a few slides that will discuss going back to school, whether it be post-secondary, bachelor's, PhD. But I also want everyone to know that just like there are multiple ways to recovery, there are multiple ways to education and finding your particular niche. And what's really great about it is that right now, this particular time that we're living in, due to the opioid epidemic, due to COVID, it's a lot of money and a lot of resources going into live life experience. A lot of us on this panel and a lot of the Oxford House staff, we're certified peer recovery specialists. Some of us are recovery coach trainers. And these positions that you've heard the different, in general sessions, Dr. Gitlow, Dr. Clark speaking about, you can get really good jobs for lived life experience. And so you just identify your particular niche that you want to go into. It doesn't necessarily have to be a college. It can be a certificate program. It could be anything, but identify it and make time for yourself. Invest in yourself. So let's see.
Just press the button. Press the middle.
Okay.
There you go.
That's okay. So just some things to consider whether you decide on going back to school or whatever you want to do. You have to think about if it's financially doable. You know, how are you going to be able to pay for it? And so it's a great website, financial aid, fafsa.gov. You can just plug that information into Google. It'll bring it up, and you can do a financial application. And you'll leave that site with them telling you how much money you possibly could qualify for. Also, do you have the resources to make it happen? Your different necessities. Do you have the time and availability? Do you know what you want to study? What is your end goal? You have to have an end goal. You have to go into this thinking that, you know, you're going to be focused, you're going to be committed, you're going to have to sacrifice, and you have to know what your end goal looks like in the end. So I talked about FAFSA, but you also want to search for scholarships. Another great thing, the Biden administration just passed where individuals will be able, what did I hear? Individuals will be able to get
I'll help keep talking.
funding back. If you got a Pell Grant, that's $10,000. If you got subsidized or unsubsidized federal loans, that's another $10,000. So that's $20,000, right? And Pell Grants you don't have to pay back for. So everyone in here is eligible for a Pell Grant. You want to choose an affordable school. You know, search the internet, decide your particular area. It might look like a community college. It might look like a four-year college. It might look like a certificate program. But search for yourself. And like I mentioned, the Pell Grants, use grants, and some of us will work when we go to school. So you want to prioritize yourself and predict your potential needs. So you're going to need a computer or a laptop, whether you might need some transportation. Now, a lot of institutions, schools, training programs are doing online work, right? Online work. Money for books and money for supplies. A lot of that comes in with the scholarship money and the grant money, so you really don't have to worry about that. You have to develop a network of people to help you navigate and answer your questions. You need to really be informed. Information is the key. If you're not informed about what you want to do, you can get into a program and kind of get lost in it and take credits and not get to your end goal. It's about time and money. And you want to have a support system that understands what you're about to get into and what you are doing. So that might consist of family and friends, and for some of us, significant others. So it's a really thought out process. You're going to have to, we're talking about time management. You want to prioritize your time, figuring out your working hours. A great thing that I've been fortunate enough to work for a great organization, Oxford House, and I'm able to, you know, do my work and also do school because you have to prioritize. And you need to figure out how many hours of classwork you'll need to do to allot for each particular class. So what's really important is self-care. So working a job, dealing with family and friends, you can become overwhelmed. We all know about stress. So you have to really take time for yourself and practice stress management. For some of us, it might be mindfulness, it might be breathology, it might be travel and vacation. But you really have to take time for yourself because you'll become overwhelmed. And before you know it, you'll be stressed out, you'll be suffering from anxiety, you'll be giving yourself all these other type of labels, depression, you know, PTSD, all of that. So be careful about overloading yourself. I mentioned the different programs and courses of study. Like I said, there's certificate programs. Some are mentioned an AA degree, 2-year degree. A lot of colleges that you get the 2-year degree at, they'll funnel you into the program for the 4-year degree. And then you have your secondary, postgraduate programs, Master of Arts, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Science, and PhD. So you can visit online for all these colleges and programs of study to get an idea of what's out there, and plans and goals for post-graduation. You want to think about the path of least resistance, going with what will serve you and is the easiest for you. What do you plan on doing when you get the degree once you've earned it? And what does the job market look like? So before I finish, I just want to say, when I came into Oxford House, I already had a degree. But before then, I was in dental school. I was in the College of Dentistry for 2 years. And I'm the only person I know that's been to dental school 3 times and haven't finished, right? But I'm saying that to say that you get up, you embrace who you are and your experiences, and you get through it. And I am each and every one of you, and it's just great to see so many people out here interested in going back to school, doing something different. Once the fog lifts and you're not under a mind and mood-altering substance, you'll be surprised about what you can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so glad you touched on a few of those things. I was going to share a few resources that I found because he was talking about scholarships and opportunities. So if you are a woman and you started school and you took a break for 2 years or more and you're interested in going back, I was able to receive a scholarship from the PEO International Organization. I'm now involved in becoming a member of it. And what they do is it is a women's organization that helps other women to achieve a higher education, and they provide scholarships. It could be up to $3,000 if you're returning back to school, which honestly helped a lot, and it's not money you have to pay back. But they also offer a low-interest loan with a fixed rate that's lower than some of the grants out there, with a very great payment plan. So if you're a female, PEO International. Yeah, and if you Google that, it'll come up, and it's, there's a couple of different ones. And for those of you who have children who are female, they have a Rising Stars scholarship for women coming out of high school that want to go to college. They help pay for it, and then they also help pay for people who want to go back and get their doctorate. Also, if you don't have a laptop, every school in the country can do a one-time loan for you to purchase a laptop while you're in college. So if that's something that you think is going to be a barrier, there's an opportunity for you if you go talk to your school. And I didn't know that until I was sitting there, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do my classwork. I don't have access to a computer. And luckily, I had someone in that office that day who knew that this was an option. So on top of any loan or grant that you get to go back to school, if you need a laptop or computer, you can get another one time while you're in college. Yeah.
I just wanted to say one thing since Mark brought it up. My daughter works for the Department of Education, and she was the one that helped draft this student loan thing with President Biden. So she does a lot of webinars, and there's some information that you need to do by the end of October. So if y'all are interested in how you can access that student loan forgiveness program, that's my daughter.
Nice, yeah. That's awesome.
Contact me, and I'll get you in touch with Ashley. Okay.
And the last thing I wanted to touch on was, Mark was talking about building a self-care routine. I mentioned that I did my bachelor's and went directly into my master's while working for Oxford House, which if y'all know your outreach staff, you know how much that can entail in our lives. I made a commitment, no matter what, that I would never do anything related to school or work on Saturdays, that was always my day. I was taking 15-hour semesters while working for my master's degree, and I never once gave up my Saturday for anything that wasn't personal, and I still graduated with a 4.0. So make time for yourself. And, a really wise woman who helped me with my degree told me, it is okay to just get what you need out of it and move on. You don't have to get every single thing they're offering, and that's okay. And for me, a person in recovery that's a perfectionist and always wants to be at the top, it was very hard for a long time to remember that it was okay that I couldn't finish reading every single word in that chapter. And that maybe I just needed to ask for that extension once or twice because then I could get it done. And they have always worked with me. I was honest when I went to my professors and I told them what I did and I told them that I was in recovery. And when things came up, they made accommodations. It is okay to say that you have a disability when you go to school and to tell them that you're in recovery and that sometimes you might need an extra day. They will work with you every single time. So, okay, I'm done. I'm going to introduce Ms. Cynthia Toohey. So she is the executive director of NADAC, the National Association of Addiction Professionals. Previously, she served as the executive director of the Dania Institute and the Central East Addiction Technology Transfer Center. Prior to this, she was the program director for Volunteers of America, Western Washington, serving homeless and persons with the co-occurrence of poverty and substance use and mental health disorders. In addition, for over 20 years, Cynthia has been the administrator of multi-county publicly funded alcohol drug prevention intervention treatment centers with services ranging from prenatal care to the serving of the elderly. She has been a trainer in domestic violence and anger management and conflict resolution for over 35 years, as well as an international, national, and state trainer in a variety of topics. Y'all, please welcome Miss Cynthia Toohey. Thank you so much. I was going to read the whole thing and brag about you.
That is enough information. That is more than enough information. What is missing from that bio is I'm a person in recovery and from not just drug, sexual abuse, physical abuse, malnutrition, and psychological abuse. And it's all of that that makes us who we are to go further, right? Because recovery is resiliency. Think about that. Recovery evidences your resiliency. Recovery from whatever it is that you're recovering from. We're all in recovery from something, whether we agree to that or not, right? We're all in recovery from something. So the more that you see your recovery as your resiliency, the more it will lift you up and help you through the next piece. So education is important. Education for me was important because my caseworkers, I was a foster child for 18 years, wore the court, lived in that system. My last caseworker read my bio. She read my file. I had a pretty bad file because I grew up in Los Angeles. I started the first known girls gang when I was 11. I'm very organized. My probation officer didn't see that as a skill. I did. I saw that as a skill, and I knew I wanted to do something with it, but I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to take the skills that I learned in addiction and in all the homes that I lived in and turn them into something that would help my life. Anybody ever feel that way? Yeah. It's like we have these things. Remember, these are part of your accomplishments. I was an accomplished jewelry stealer in Hollywood. I was accomplished, right? But what could I do with that accomplishment? How could I turn that for something positive? And education helped me to do that. It helped me to see that I was enough. I was enough. How many of you ever feel like you're not enough? Yeah, it's part of addiction. It's part of being left, abandonment. So our drugs of choice abandon us from feeling good about who we are or who we could be. And so think about that in terms of these tips I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share some tips with you. How many of you see yourself as resilient? Yeah. Yes. Okay, good. Then we're on the same page. So you can define yourself by the things that you have accomplished in your past, and then as you go in your future, you can define yourself that way. So I want you to think about professional identity. Who do you want to be professionally? Professional identity is that image or that thing that you see yourself as to perform a job in your field. So the field I wanted to go into was social work. I wanted to help kids like me and families like mine. And then I wanted to go into addiction studies and do something with both of those things. So my professional identity now, not just a person in recovery, not just, it is more than just, right? So take that just away, all right? Think about that, not just. No, I am, and I am a social worker. I am an addiction specialist. I'm a mental health specialist. I'm a domestic violence specialist. I've been through all those things. And I'm a person in recovery. And I am a person in recovery. I am not an addict. I'm a person in recovery. Okay? Think about that in terms of how you identify yourself. Because your identification through your lifetime is going to be important, right? So a distinct professional identity gives you, can be instrumental in building your career, right? It helps you to think about this. And it involves a mix of education. So you got to get the education. You got to get the professional training. And you got to have some personality. I know you people in here have personality, right? So use that personality. Use that personality to get you where you want to go. You can earn degrees. You can have professional certificates or certifications to demonstrate your knowledge, your credibility, and your expertise. So I was in Washington, D.C. yesterday at the White House, and what part of that was to talk about Recovery Month. And people said, well, who are you? And it's like, well, I am all these things. That's all part of who I am. And I'm also a person with children and a person now with grandbabies. I love them, okay? And I'm grateful. So I'm also a person of gratitude. I'm also a person of gratitude. My recovery wouldn't be where it is today without gratitude. Do you wake up in the morning with gratitude? Do you go to bed at night with gratitude? It will serve you all your life. Personality creates distinction among people in their profession with similar backgrounds. We're all similar in here. What's going to define you a little bit differently? What's going to make you a little bit different? Think about that for yourself. What makes you different? When I came into being a social worker, when I went to college, I was brand new in recovery. My caseworker said I wasn't smart enough. You ever hear that? You're not smart enough. It's like, well, how smart do you have to be? How smart do you have to be? I survived LA. I'm pretty smart. I did not die on the street. Right? What have you survived? What have you survived? Are you not smart enough? Yes, you are smart enough. And simply put, stand out from other applicants. So down the road, you want to stand out a little bit, be who you are. And through your education, work, and life experience, you have developed skills. You have developed knowledge. You have developed work behaviors. And some of these work behaviors that the panelists have already talked about, it's important to keep those in your brain because those will help you to complete whatever college education you're after. And that's really important. So I wanted to share some tips with you. You got to be deliberate about you. Being deliberate about you, getting to the deep side of you, because that can trip you up in your education. That can trip you up in your recovery. Building your own resiliency. Think of this word, causing. You're causing yourself to become who you want to become. You are causing it. You are propelling it. You are making it happen. It's a process. It takes time, it takes energy, and you know what? I got some great mentors along the way. So you want some buddies to mentor you. Oops, I'm ahead of myself, which is known to be true. So you got to believe in your ability and say that. I believe in my ability. I'm not perfect, but I believe in my ability. I wonder what I can do with that. And let's discover how I will grow. So just some ideas. There are 4 areas. Oh, that one. Okay. we're just going to talk about the 4 areas that helped me, and you can help you to define more about your growth so that you stay on your path, whatever your path is going to be. If it's going to be more education, if it's going to be certificate programs, whatever it's going to be, think about your financial. What do you need to be in financial agreement with yourself? So, do you need loans? Do you need a job? How much money do you need? What type of work do you want to do? How much money do you want to make in your lifetime? You know, these are things to consider. How do you manage your money? Now, I manage money pretty darn good, and I have since I was 11, because I knew how to take that jewelry and turn it into what? Cash. Yeah. Hello. All right. However, that cash can give you some problems, right? In recovery. So you got to decide, do you need an accountability partner with your money? Okay, don't save it under your mattress. There's no interest there. Saving money, all of that. I'm going to go through this quickly. I am a little ADHD XYZ, so just bear with. Okay, physical and spatial, what is it that makes you comfortable? Now, a couple people talked about here. Stress management, getting comfortable. What are your expectations? So you can get all wrapped up in a sexual relationship and lose your education and recovery, right? Is that not true? All right, we talk sex, okay? That's just part of recovery. If you're not doing something physically to move that body and make it work, then that's going to be a problem down the road. Physical environment, making it comfortable, physical safety, and personal boundaries. I tell you, physical safety is real important. I know how to fight. I don't want to, but don't push me. Okay, social and emotional and social agreements. You want to set expectations for emotional support. Where are you getting your emotional support? Learning your own strengths and areas you need to grow in emotionally and socially. I was so bashful, you could look at me, I'd turn red. I'm still bashful. I'm still internally that way. But recovery and people and you all, you just bring it out. You know what I mean? Let other people help you bring that out. And your emotional agreements with yourself, how you love and support yourself, how you love others. So some of you may feel like I'm not good enough to be loved, so I'm just going to love others. Okay, start with that. Start with that. Love people. Just love them. Doesn't matter if they do what you want them to do. It's not all about you. It's not about all control. Just love them. That will come back to you because you're then growing your brain cells on empathy, and empathy creates ability to connect with people. It's the most important thing that you do is to connect with others in a positive way. So I'm going to move us forward. Spiritual development and growth. Everybody has something spiritual inside them, whether they want to agree to that or not. And it's how you relate to that spiritual side that is important for you. I learned later in life, because I didn't grow up in my family of origin, that I'm Native American. I knew something was there. I didn't know what it was. You know, that connection with Mother Earth and that connection with Spirit. And through the years, I've been able to grow that and to learn the non-traditional side of spiritualism, right? So find yours, whatever that is for you. And once you decide on your agreements, write them down. These are my agreements with myself. Put them in a frame. Put them on your dresser. Put them somewhere. And let yourself look at those, because that will keep it in your brain, and you will make yourself, you will cause yourself to make that happen. So I'm going to end with healing, nurturing and healing yourself. I know there's a dance tonight. Go dance. Go listen to music. Write. Some of you are beginning writers or accomplished writers. Write, share, laugh, pray, meditate, and most of all, forgive yourself and others. Thank you so much. Is that my phone?
You're right there.
Duh.
You know, I was sitting up here and listening, and I was thinking about how we all have our own pathway, right? So we all have our own pathway. I might have gotten an advanced degree. I'm married to someone who went to a trade school. That was his path, and he's amazing at it. You know, we're all up here talking about how you can go back to school, but I want everyone to remember that that doesn't have to look for you the way it did for any of us sitting up here. It's if you want to go to a trade school, oh my God, plumbers make so much money. It is insane. Okay? Like my brother who's sitting up here in the front row went to the NASCAR Institute, and he's a really well-paid mechanic. I still won't let him fix my cars. Some relationships need boundaries, right? But I want y'all to hear that just because I went to a four-year university doesn't mean that that's everyone's path. And if someone's telling you otherwise, I want to tell you today, it is okay to define what school is for you and to follow your own path. Right? I'm having to learn that as a mom to a 20-year-old who stopped going to college, moved to Europe, and is living as a nanny right now. I had to say, this is her path, and she gets to follow it. And she's coming back, and instead of going back to university, she's going to do a community college because it costs less and then transfer back to the university. At the end of the day, it will not matter where she went. It's all about what, you know, I've had people ask me about my career. I've never sat in a job interview and someone said, well, exactly which schools did you go to and what was your GPA and how did you do at those schools? That's not what it's about. It's about the life experience that we can offer. So that's my spiel on that. It came to mind. So, thanks. You don't have to clap. Okay. So the last presenter that we have that I want to introduce is going to share some on, personal inspiration and going back to school. Scott Cumming is a trial attorney. He's alumnus of McCartney Oxford House in Bend, Oregon, and a member of AA. Yes, Bend. One of my friends is from Bend, too, or lived there for a while. During the time at the house, he was a house president and a chapter chair, and somewhere along the line, he learned a new way to live. Scott went back to get his law degree and is now a trial attorney, and that's exactly what he told me to say, so I'm going to let him to come up here and finish his story. Welcome to Scott.
Yeah, so by going back, yeah, it's more like crawling back because I failed out of college a lot for years. I had a terrible record. I actually gave up. I'd given up by the time I moved into Oxford House. It wasn't until about a year later that I even decided to try and go back to community college. And I was inspired actually by coming to the Oxford House World Convention, because it was nearby that year. It was in Oregon. And yeah, I heard a bunch of stories, and Paul Malloy turned out was a lawyer, and Steve Poland is another lawyer. He talked about his story and how he got caught as a lawyer selling blow out of the Justice Department. And, somehow he still got barred. And I got my first felony when I was 18, so I was thought oh, that dream is gone, I think that's what I was meant to do. Ever since I was a kid, my teachers would say, you're going to be a lawyer when you grow up. And yeah, turned out they were pretty on point, but I felt like there was no way I could ever do that. And then I heard, Steve and Paul at the World Convention, and I just came home and decided, well, I'm just going to try it, and if I fail again, then that's like, what's the difference between failing 10 times and failing 11 times? Right? So Started at community college, transferred to university, graduated top of my class, applied to law school. Yeah, and while I was there, like, I got my record expunged, showing a rehabilitation to the judge. Yeah. But then I was just like super upset because I found out that I had to tell the law school anyway when I apply. And so I did, and then they accepted me and they gave me a full ride scholarship. And I graduated top of my class from there, and this is crazy. I worked for a federal judge in federal court, passed the FBI background check. I mean, I passed it by being honest about my past, and it all checked out. But nobody told me that I could do any of that. And if I'd had asked, they probably would have told me I couldn't. And so, I don't know, but I make an educated guess that a lot of the people in here are probably either in school or thinking about going back to school. And probably, like I was, thinking about what you're still going to be allowed to do. So I came out here to give you the maybe reckless advice to not think about it like that. Just think about it in terms of if you have a calling, just pursue it. I mean, what kind of a recovery lets someone else tell you how much you can recover? And that's not to say that nobody's going to try and stop you. There's people out there who just don't like us. I mean, for a lot of them, it's probably justified in some way. But really, that's never going to change until it's more people like us who are the gatekeepers. Yeah. And because that's really what makes us people to other people is knowing someone like us, and just having that person to think of when they think of a person who's in recovery. Yeah. So don't limit yourselves, and just put one foot in front of the other. And if you don't make it, but I bet you will, we'll pick you back up. All right.
All right. That one was really hard to follow up. It's like a mic drop on that. I do like what he's saying, though, guys, like honesty. I never once denied my recovery or my past. I was a convicted felon as well, and it never stopped me. Now, I'm not saying it didn't create hurdles that I had to come over, but I can promise you they never stopped me. And it was all about making sure, like Scott's saying, I was just honest. I had to write an entire personal essay to get back into school. I had to explain all the things that I'd done to the college. If I had left something out, I probably wouldn't have gotten accepted. And it was scary, and it sucks to have to get up there, and yeah, I just said sucks on camera. Hi, guys. To have to be honest with people who aren't in recovery sometimes. Because in this room, I know that I can stand up here and tell you I'm a convicted felon, and y'all are like, okay, whatever. But when I'm talking to the president of the social work school, and I'm trying to get them to let me back into college. I'm like, yeah, I'm a convicted felon. It's a little scarier because, normies don't always accept us as quickly as we accept each other. But I've yet to find someone that wouldn't give me a chance. So walk through the fear. I listened to a podcast one time that said, we tell ourselves 1,000 negative thoughts a day. And I was like, I don't do that because I'm special and unique, right? And then I started realizing, oh my God, I do it all the time. My first thought is a negative thing, from looking in the mirror to analyzing how I look to the days I don't want to get out of bed. But if you can work on being aware of it and training yourself, you can walk through all those fears, and it does start to change. I might be at 999 today, but it does help a lot to be aware of it and walk through it. So I'm not going to keep chit-chatting. I'm going to, ask you guys to thank our panelists who have all been amazing today. And then I'm going to say, all of us are very willing to help someone answer questions. I'm not going to volunteer them, but I'm more than happy to give out my information if you want to follow up with me later on things that I've done to go back to school. I'm assuming a lot of them will feel the same way, but that's their personal choice. We do want to open up the floor to questions. So if you have questions, please. Okay, how do we do this? Is there a microphone or just, you want me to? Oh. Yes, what's?
So, I'm gonna talk too loud in that. So my question is, I'm struggling. I haven't been to school in 20 years, but I'm struggling to retain a lot of the information that I'm having to that I'm reading during school online. Do you guys have any pointers on what I need to do? Now, when I do read, I take notes vividly in the process of reading, but I'm still not able to retain when I have to take a quiz on Sundays. Do you have any pointers to help me out?
Who did online school? All right.
So for me, I'm an app person. I download a lot of apps that help. Quizlet helped me tremendously. But I also went back and highlighted through my book. So I'm more of a audio person. I'm not good at retaining if I read it. If someone reads it to me, I retain better. So I downloaded an app that costs maybe $30 for the year that reads the book to me. I scan the book in and it reads it to me. So that really worked for me. Get with me after and I'll give you the Speechify. That's it.
Nice. Mark?
Also, excuse me.
Yes,
Also, A&T probably has a lot of resources that they provide for students with classes that you should check into that. And then also, you might be doing a little too much. You can't read everything, so you have to be able to decipher what information is pertinent and what's relevant. And a lot of times the syllabus will define that for you. Right.
Thank you.
I have 2 points, because I'm kind of an old-fashioned learner. I have ADHD, so I need study cards. I make study cards that help me, and then study groups. So just being with people, talking it through, remembering, oh, yeah. So those are other ideas.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Patrice from Washington, D.C.
Hi.
Hi. So I am very interested in going back to school. Like him, I have not been to school to college in 20 years. And I downloaded my credits, and I found that I had 93 credits when I left.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to know from you guys' experience, how many of those credits count? Will they count tremendously? Does my life experience count? Will I have to go back for a long time? Can you help me out with that? Thank you.
So that's going to be up to the school. Oftentimes, credits only last for 10 years. However, you can't explain your situation, and they do have some discrepancy on that. I can't give you a firm answer because I'm not a counselor at a college that's identifying whether your credits will transfer in or not, but I can tell you this. I ended up going back for the full term even though I had the credits that transfer in, and I am so grateful that I did because the lived experience I got as being 35 years old returning to college helped me more than any of those previous credits have. I mean, I was taking like Anthropology 101 with 18-year-olds, right? But I got so much more out of it. So whatever that is, it's your higher power's way of giving you exactly what you need. It's a personal choice.
Make sure it's accredited. Make sure it's accredited. Yeah, whatever college you go to, whatever courses you take, make sure it's accredited.
And also, you probably, those credits, you will probably get credit for them, but if you haven't been in a while, a lot of times you might have to take a prep course or something for them to let you back in since you've been out for so long, like 20 years.
You want to, I'll start up here. Does that work? Or do you have someone else?
Mike right here.
Okay, hi, Mike.
Hello, I'm Kenny. I'm from Texas.
Kenny.
So I'm back in school, and maybe this is just like a wanting some encouragement. It's worth like, 'cause the burnout, I don't know. It's like I'm school full-time, work full-time, like chapter stuff, all of that. Worth it for all of y'all? Like, was it?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Walking across that stage, just so y'all know, this is what I graduated in. It's the first time I've worn it since then. The feeling of that accomplishment was worth every moment. Yeah.
My name's Jessie. I'm from Washington State.
All right.
So I am in school. I'm in my third quarter, but I have a couple of questions. I want to talk to you afterward because I got a lot of questions for you. But what is the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans? Can anybody answer that?
It's the payment.
Well, one's going to be your interest rate.
It's the payment through the federal government. It's the payment through the federal government. One's subsidized and the other one's unsubsidized. So it depends on how much money you get and the borrower that you get it from. So,
Okay.
but either way, you have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Okay,
The interest rate is going to be
It's just a
different
famous
too.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just know because if you go to any college, you have a financial aid counselor, and like my financial aid counselor sat with me for like an hour and a half and like went over step by step all of this stuff, like because that's their job. So that's who I would ask if I were you, just because they will like go step by step over grants, scholarships, subsidized, unsubsidized,
Everything.
federal.
It's how you have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to come up here to the front?
Thank you. Katie from Kentucky. Hello. So I do know that in regards to like opening an Oxford House on college campuses, a lot of students go through more than just addiction, like the co-occurring, I guess, like gender dysmorphia, sexuality, eating disorders are very prevalent in college. So like, how do you assist people with both of those without making it too divisive with Oxford House?
So Oxford House is only housing for people that are in recovery from alcohol and drug use. If someone has a co-occurring disorder, just like anybody else, they need to be seeking their own outside counseling for those services. We are not here to provide them with oversight, supervision, or any kind of therapeutic counseling for those, other co-occurrings. So we would do it just like we do in a regular Oxford House, and we would let them know that it is very important to maintain their therapy, medication, whatever it is that they're on, but that here we're going to address the alcohol and drug use.
So I'll say this too because I also suffer from that. My Oxford House just held me accountable to make sure I was doing that outside stuff, right? And I went to treatment for my eating disorder while in an Oxford House, and I was able to keep that spot. So like, they held me accountable to that standard while also maintaining that my first thing in an Oxford house was my addiction, right? So that was all I had for that.
I'm Steve from Indiana.
Hi,
I'm right smack in the middle of two huge universities. Does Oxford House market towards colleges? Do you have any kind of marketing plan? Because we've only got, one is Notre Dame, the other one is Indiana University. Right, I'm right smack in the middle. We've only got 3 Oxford houses, none deal with colleges. Do we market colleges?
So I worked in Indiana for a long time, and we have a really great relationship with IU. We do their Project Echo track, which is where we actually present on the Oxford House model to all of the providers and the professors with IU on what we offer. We have worked a little bit with Purdue University as well, just to build those relationships. At this time, we are not actually looking to expand collegiate-specific housing in Indiana because we've been focused on expanding to meet the contract goals. Talk with Josh Ogle and Sean Darling, and I'm sure that they will both be happy to get you. If you would like to do it, they'd be more than happy to let you do it and take that on. I've already confronted Sean about it. Perfect. Yeah, I'll just give him a little push in the background if you'd like to. Okay.
But also know it's not easy. It takes time. So don't give up. You know, just keep that communication with the university, with the recovery programs on campus. You know, keep being vigilant on it because mine is still going on, but it didn't start overnight. It took me a couple years for it to get up and running and stay focused. You know, so if that's what you really want to do, because we know there's a need, don't get discouraged because it does not happen like this.
Yeah.
It just does not.
And finding those open 12-step meetings that are on campus where the professors and the students are going, that's a huge part of it. And because, you know, they are not restricted to you being a college student to go. So, are we out of time? We are out of time. It's 9:30. If y'all have more questions, you can come up and talk to us one-on-one.